Hey everyone, welcome back to the Whoopi Studio. Today we are here to talk about When Calls the Heart Season 11, Episode 7, titled Facing the Music. Which, to be honest, there wasn't much music in this episode. I think next episode would probably be more appropriate for the title from what I see. But anyways, my mumsy is here to join me. Thanks for coming on.
Hey guys.
Um, what's interesting is that I looked ahead and next week's episode is called Brother's Keeper. And which I guess would make sense with Joseph's brother coming, but I thought that could even be this episode. Maybe they could be more interchangeable because one thing it seems is that this is a two-parter, and that a lot of the stuff from this one's going to continue into the next one,
Right.
is what I noticed. But this episode was okay. I would say it was probably one of the weaker ones of the season. I felt like I was kind of bored through most of it. There were some good moments, but overall, it was just an okay episode. What would you say?
Yeah, it was average. Yeah.
Especially because we've had a few strong ones recently, especially the last one with the Thomas Higgins thing. This one just felt a bit like just a bit of a downgrade to
Hmm.
me. I mean, and it's interesting because Tom Thornton is here and he hasn't been in it since season 5. You think that his return would be a bit more, I don't know, like a bigger deal, but it felt a bit lackluster to me. But that's just me. But I mean, it was cool to see him back. I wasn't expecting. Well, I was because I saw something, but if I didn't see it, I wouldn't have expected him to be in the choir business. That's crazy. Um, it seemed like a good fit for him at first, but then things quickly like escalated to us questioning if Tom is being shady again, which was kind of a bummer. I wish maybe he would have just turned over a new leaf completely. But yeah, what did you think of Tom's return?
Yeah, I felt like to me it was weird the timing. I mean, I understand it's because it was Jack's birthday, but we hadn't heard from him in forever, and poor little Jack had no clue who he was, and
Yeah,
that's sad. But yeah, you so we kind of he comes back. He says he has this job, and we're kind of hopeful that he's changed, he's grown up. But then we start to have doubts, and that's hard. And then I don't know. It wasn't that he was trying to do something shady. I don't think. But then again, he didn't know a lot about this, and he'd only been at the job for 2 months. So
mm,
you kind of question: has he really changed a lot?
I don't know. It is kind of a bummer that we still have to question that at this point. And I was just like, why is like everything just suddenly okay? Like, has he not been? Because I just assumed Elizabeth has not seen him since the wedding, like unless something happened in between. But to me, it sounded like that was his first time visiting Jack's grave. Was that in this episode? And I highly doubt Elizabeth went to go visit him somewhere. So I'm like, why wouldn't she? You think she would be kind of upset with him? But of course, Elizabeth is a cheerful person, of course. But no, I thought there would be more repercussions for him being gone so long. Like, what was he doing in the 6 years since his brother died, and why is he just now coming to visit? I wanted that to be explained a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it's not a huge important deal. But basically, moving forward, he says he's scouting choirs, and then like everyone wants him to scout their choir. So he does scout their choir, and um, the guy he's talking to says they. I don't know if it was Mr. Sweeney at that point. I think it was. Said that that sounded like a good fit. He was obviously lying. Um, and then there was the whole entry fee of $5, and I thought it was funny when Nathan told Allie like $5 is a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
and it like of course it was back then. But hearing that nowadays, I'm like,
Mm-hmm. Right.
although per person though, that's a bit unusual. I feel like you would pay a group fee for
Right.
that. But back then, maybe I guess it was just different, like $5 per person. Um, but like I was kind of thinking, there's no way they're going to Salt Lake City to like shoot a festival, like choir festival of all of them together. So I knew this wasn't actually going to happen, or if it would happen off screen.
Right.
Um, but basically, one interesting thing I want to mention about this whole thing before we get into like the shady stuff is that Tom goes to see Faith, and invites her to lunch, and then they go to lunch, and I don't really know what he was planning to talk to her about before Minnie and them interrupted, and he agreed to scout their choir. Um, they do have a history though, or specifically, I think Jack and Faith have a history, and Tom was somehow involved in that. I don't fully remember, but I know that Jack and Faith had like a friendship. I don't think they were ever romantically involved though, but I know they were close. So, and I know that they did kind of throw that connection in when they said that Faith treated Tom after his car wreck or whatever with Julie.
Mm-hmm.
So they do have some history. Maybe something happened between them. Who knows? Um, but that wasn't really addressed in this episode. But and so it's kind of hard to speculate, like why did he ask her to lunch and why was Lily invited too? That was confusing to me. We didn't get an answer on that either. What did you think of that?
Well, I mean, I sense some chemistry on both sides there. So it kind of made me feel like, are they setting this up for a potential future relationship? You know, is Tom going to maybe settle down there, turn over a new leaf
Hmm.
and settle down in Hope Valley? I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean the only problem with that is that Tom Thornton seems like the way that they bring him in just doesn't seem like he's going to be like around long term. So like I don't think that's going to be like a permanent romance unless Faith leaves. Maybe she leaves with Lily. Who knows? Maybe they're kind of that was foreshadowing like a family dynamic between the three of them. I don't know. Um, but I do think there are some sparks though between Tom and Faith. So I'm interested. Maybe next episode we'll get more of that. Um, but basically things kind of start to go south because Nathan starts to like thinks that this Sweeney guy is sus for everything, and they go and confront Tom, and Tom says he swears that everything is on the level. Which, if you have to say that, that sounds pretty sus to me, and like he's definitely hiding something. And then we have him on the phone, and then something happens on the phone. He finds out that the money is gone, and then he quickly flees town. And Elizabeth and Nathan must go after him, and they ride on a horse together. So that was like a cute little Elizabeth and Nathan moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final scene is he decided not to leave. He says like something about like Jack stuck with him, and he decided not to run away from the problem, which is some maturity from
Mm-hmm.
him. But he
Definitely.
does reveal that Mr. Sweeney stole all the money that he sent him, all the money from each choir participant, and it sounds like he maybe did that for other choirs too that Tom was
Yeah.
scouting.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be an issue. And I saw something where Mayor Maisie Hickam was upset with Tom. So I wonder if that happened with the Benson Hills choir too.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that,
Yeah.
and I think so. I think he's going to be in trouble, but Elizabeth and Nathan are going to help him. So that'll be good.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
I think so too.
Um, so I feel like at first I was seeing him in a negative light, but kind of at the end it made me see him less that way.
Yeah. Like you have some hope for him.
And yeah, so um, in next episode they're going to be putting on a choir festival to make up for the money that was stolen. So that'll be fun, I think. But Elizabeth and Nathan, they don't have much this episode, which is kind of disappointing. But we do see pretty much nothing more than what we saw in the promo. In fact, I kind of wish they didn't show that in the promo because really all we got with them this episode is Elizabeth saying she thinks Tom thinks of himself in Jack's shadow, and Nathan says, I can relate to that. And Elizabeth says, I don't think of you in anyone's shadow. Which, I mean, it was a nice moment. I think it gives Nathan some reassurance that she sees him as more than just like Jack's replacement. But like, I wish like they didn't show that. Like,
Right.
there was and to me because it happened so early in the episode I'm like okay maybe there's going to be something else later but there wasn't um but I'm thinking maybe something Tom's going to do or say might push Elizabeth and Nathan closer together is
Maybe.
possible.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely want Tom to like at least sense something going on between them, and Tom doesn't need to give Nathan his blessing. Like that's kind of weird, but I would like to see some sort of like conversation between Tom and Nathan. I
Mm-hmm.
think we'll get one.
Yeah, I think that's possible.
Um, but let's move on. Unless you have anything else to say about
Mm-mm.
any of the three of them. Okay.
Nope.
Let's talk about Lucas. Let's talk Lucas. Lucas, this episode was interesting. He's pretty much still searching for bidders for his resort, and he's really struggling. Everyone is turning him down, and that seems unlikely. Like there must be something else going on. And at first, I thought that um, maybe it's because Henry's involved. Now I'm thinking maybe Edwin is turning the people away secretly, like like persuading them not to vote for him. But it's also possible Montague has intercepted and told all those people not to. Why did I say vote? Not to bid for
Yeah.
the resort.
And that's my guess at Montague, because Edwin doesn't have that kind of power, but I definitely think Edwin's a puppet, and he could be trying to sway Lucas to Montague.
Well, yeah, I definitely think because Edwin's very persistent that Lucas should accept the bid from Montague, that Montague's trying to convince Edwin to convince Lucas.
Yes.
Is that type of thing.
Yeah.
So I definitely think Edwin's shady, and I hope that gets resolved and that Lucas like kicks Edwin out.
Yeah.
I feel like they're building to that.
Yeah, I maybe so. I mean, I didn't like the idea of Edwin coming up borrowing government money as the what they used to front to build it.
Yeah, and I was weird, interesting, like why Lucas was so for that too.
Yeah, it just seems
that
shady.
Like out of character.
Yeah,
and maybe he thought like there was no more options, but thankfully Henry was there to try to persuade him not to do that. And I think Lucas should listen to Henry more because Henry knows what he's doing, and Lucas apparently does not.
Yeah,
I was kind of disappointed in Lucas this episode.
Well, I mean, in Lucas's defense, when he said he was going to become mayor, he said, "I'm going to do," or governor. Yeah. He said he was going to do this, 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 and this, and he's trying to follow through with those. And he's has so many obstacles in the way that he's thinking he's going to do whatever it takes to come through on what he's promised.
Yeah, he's not going to have broken promises. That's something he does not want to do. We know that about him. Mm-hmm. He's going to follow through on what he promises, or at least he's going to try to.
Yes.
So yeah, with that, the episode ends with finding out that Benson Hill's oil company is bankrupt, and that's going to put so many people out of jobs. So Edwin says they should build the resort to fund that, like swindle up more interest in that area. But Lucas, like he says, like this isn't about that, like or getting people to vote for me. This is about like families like not being able to put food on the table, which is a great point from him. And that was also where I was like, okay, Edwin's sus. And then he leaves, and Lucas then calls Montague, and I'm like, okay, is this going to be like an angry call, or is he going to accept the bid? What do you think?
It's hard to say. It really is.
I mean, I just don't see Lucas doing that, like getting involved with a rival. And I don't really want to see that either. Right. I think it would be more interesting if he got involved with Jeanette, though. Like if he accepted her bid. I don't really care about him accepting Montague's bid necessarily. I think that would be stupid of him to do.
I agree.
So I hope he doesn't do that. I hope it's just like an angry call. Mm-hmm. Anything else you want to say about Lucas? I feel like we kind of covered everything with him. So the investigation over Lucas, again, Lucas's shooting, it did take some steps forward in this episode. We have Bill and Rosemary, and they interview Pike's mother, and she says that she was with him the night of the shooting, and that he was helping her because she hurt her hip. So that does give Pike an alibi.
Yep.
But she thinks that the Mounties forced Pike to confess to the shooting, which is very sus. I don't know if that is the case or not. But what we do know is that Montague apparently paid for the mom's surgery, which is also sus. And I definitely think this is leaning more towards Montague being the shooter, even though it seems too obvious.
And sent flowers to the hospital.
He did send flowers. Yeah. So I think he was trying to get into like that family's good graces.
Yeah.
Framed Pike, got in good graces with his mom. Is the way I saw all that going down. So in next episode, Pike is coming. We're gonna meet him. So I hope this gets resolved. It's not a bad mystery, but like it's kind of been moving along slowly. So I think I'm kind of ready for
Mm-hmm.
that to be done.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's going to be Montague, unless they throw a curveball and it's someone else. Um, but that's, I mean, I think I kind of covered everything with
Mm-hmm.
that, didn't I? I
I think
mean,
so.
so other stuff, really not much with Joseph and his brother. We know he sent him a letter,
Mm-hmm.
still hasn't heard back yet,
Right.
and we'll talk about because something big is going to happen there next episode. I'll talk about that at the end. But beyond that, I'm trying to think of other storylines. There was no progress with Mike and May. I don't think they
Mm-mm.
had any scenes. They had no scenes in this
Mm-mm.
episode. Faith and Lily had a few cute scenes. Nothing significant. I think that was it. Um, I noticed that Florence and Ned got a lot of screen time with this episode, though, which
Mm-hmm.
was
Yeah.
interesting. Not a bad thing, just something I noticed.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think that's it. Not a lot happened.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
A slower episode. Next episode, so we're gonna have a choir festival. There's gonna be tension. Tom's gonna have to make things right with the town, um, and I think Elizabeth and Nathan will help him through that. Is what I hope, and I hope we'll get something between Nathan and Tom where they talk about
Mm-hmm.
Elizabeth. That'd be great. And we're gonna meet Joseph's brother Jacob, um, and that's interesting. We actually see Jacob talking to Minnie in the promo, and she wants to know what happened between them, which makes me think that it wasn't anything to do with her.
Maybe not.
But maybe we'll see. I don't know what happened, but it's cool that he's here, and I'm looking forward to seeing those two talk it
Mm-hmm.
out.
I agree.
And then the other thing we saw was Pike coming, and they're going to confront him directly. And so those are the main things. So overall, it sounds like next episode is going to be a good one. I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this episode again, it was slow, but I think it's a two-parter. So I think next episode things are going to ramp up,
Yep.
and this was
I
just
agree.
like the start to it.
Mm-hmm.
So anything else you want to say?
Mm-hmm. Nope.
Okay, well, um, like, comment, and subscribe. Comment down below your thoughts on this episode, and we will see you next week to talk about episode 8. Bye, everyone.
Bye.